Thank you for coming to the presentation tonight on a Sunday night. I'm sure you guys are giving up a lot of fun to come here to join the presentation from Rowechen, and I'm pretty confident that you will not regret the time spending here. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Ted Kai, and I am the co-founder of Momentum Learning. We have been helping students to mainly improve their performance on STEM-related competitions, for example, math and coding. Today, we have Rowechen, who will be doing a presentation, not just on one topic, but on multiple subjects that he will be touched upon. Let me just first do a quick introduction of Rowechen. He's probably one of the strongest graduating senior from Texas this year, and he will be heading to MIT in the fall. Let me briefly cover some of his accomplishments. He made MOP. He was USMO honorable mention, and that's on the math part. In addition to math, he also does physics. Not only he made the camp this year, but we also learned that just this week that he has made the traveling team that will be representing the US at the International Physics Olympiad. So congratulations, Rowechen. That's a huge accomplishment. We are already proud of you, and we wish you the best luck at the competition. Other than physics and math, he's also doing computer, and he is a USICO Platinum qualifier. With so many accomplishments under his belt, I think today we're all curious to find out, Rowechen, how did you manage to do all three? How the knowledge from one subject can help the other one or multiple ones. So those are the things I think we're curious about. How did you manage your time? Did you study all three at the same time? Or you study some in your freshman year and gradually moving on to other subjects? So those are the things we'd like to know. Also, we'd like to hear your advice for the younger students, for example, who are just starting middle school. Should they start one subject or multiple subjects? And how should they spend the time wisely so that they can accomplish more? Now I'm turning this to Rowechen. Actually, before we start, let me mention we have everybody muted. Please stay muted. On previous presentations, we hear some noises, some background noises. So make sure your phone or your laptop is muted. Rowechen is going to go through his presentation. That's going to probably take 40 minutes, 50 minutes. When he's done, he will take a look at the questions in the chat room. So if you have questions you want to ask, you can first type in the chat room, and he will address those questions after he's done with his presentation. Just hold your questions until the presentation is completed. All right, thank you so much. Let me turn this to Rowechen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tai. And thank you to this big audience that is here on Father's Day. Okay, I know Dr. Tai already introduced me, so here's my little card thingy. Here's a more detailed list of my experience that will be helpful in understanding like where I was coming from when I came into my high school, and especially this year. So in middle school, like many of you guys, I began by participating in my local math counts competition. And that was my first experience with any competition in 6th grade. And I subsequently made math counts nationals. I also did many AMC and AMY competitions, which are the introductory mathematics competitions in the United States. In my freshman year of high school, that was my first experience with physics competitions, and I quickly qualified for the USIFA, and I earned a bronze medal. I also found out about the USACO for the first time, and I swept bronze and silver, and I made gold. And this is pretty much where I was on my 16th birthday before my junior year, where I made 3 wishes for my birthday, 16th birthday. I said, I want to get top 50 in USICA. I want to get a gold medal. I want to become USACO Platinum, and I want to make MOP. And the following year, I did that. And I will explain to y'all how I did it. And then finally, what happened senior year, this year? Well, you guys will have to wait and see, I suppose. Okay, so I have some general information about learning and like how to get introduced into math competitions and stuff. And if we have time at the end, I will go back to that. But let me talk about these 3 arts that I enjoy so much. Mathematics, which is at the top, that's the symbol for the Mathematical Association of America. AAPT, that runs the F equals MA, and the USACO. These are mathematics, physics, and computer science. Now, why do I call these three subjects the three arts, right? Well, first of all, they're sciences, but there's two other ones, right? I'm forgetting like chemistry and biology. There is a USA Chemistry Olympiad, and there's also a USA Biology Olympiad. In my opinion, these three subjects share a lot of commonalities that the other subjects that may seem similar on a surface level do not. In all three of these competitions, intuition is extremely valuable in the sense that there is a lot of insight to be gleaned that you cannot explain vigorously. Like, I cannot explain to you why I would do a certain approach to a problem other than that it feels right. And this is something that is very prominent in these three competitions. In addition, when you're preparing, you need to learn basic principles to really great depth. Like, for example, in mathematics, what is the simplest geometric object? Probably a triangle, right? But as anybody who has done any math compositions can tell you, triangles can be explored to great depth. And I have actually spent the majority of my junior year playing around with triangles and circles. And you just never learn everything about it. Okay. And so unlike biology, for example, where you need to essentially read through this book called Campbell and read it twice or maybe 3 times and memorize everything in it, and you gain a lot of information, like a big amount of knowledge. In mathematics, physics, and computer science, it's more that you just learn some basic principles, but you understand them so well that you can work wonders with them. And on the flip side, memorization is discouraged, right? Because if you have to memorize one of these basic principles, then it might show that you do not understand it well enough. Most of the things that I know, I can rederive on the spot. And in fact, I've taken this to great lengths in that I try to not memorize anything. And this sometimes hurts me because there are, for example, trigonometric derivatives or something that you are expected to memorize in calculus BC or something. And I would just always rederive them every single test because I would never be bothered to memorize them. And I think this may be an extreme, but it's definitely the right line of thought. You do not want to blindly memorize things. Instead, you want to gain a true understanding of them. And so I will explore today the relationships between these three subjects and how, in particular, having a lot of experience with mathematics competitions from my middle school years, Math Counts Nationals, the AMC and AMY, allowed me to how I leveraged those skills in order to succeed in physics and computer science. So first of all, I would like to give some statistics about these three competitions so that people who are looking into these competitions can know what they're going up against. So these are about the annual participation rate in these three contests. The AMC attracts around 100,000 people. They say they attract 300,000, but if you look at the statistics, that does not seem to add up. It's more like 100,000, take the AMC 8, 40,000, take each exam. You can run the numbers. In the USACO, there are 4 different contests taking place in December, January, February, and then the open one, which is in April. And participation tends to dwindle throughout the year. Like maybe people are really motivated in the fall and then they just get bored over time. But in the fall of this year, there were 13,000 participants, and the F equals MA has around 4,500. Now, this is a big difference, right? What this means is that if you take a look at certain achievements in these three competitions, they may not be directly comparable. So here are some more statistics represented in percentiles instead of number of people who qualify in terms of like, that is how it's usually presented, right? Like, for example, people will tell you roughly 400 people make the USIMO or USAJMO, but I have represented them as percentages. And what is the TLDR? It's that if you're a junior this year and you're looking for something to put on your resume, go take the F equals MA and try to qualify for the USIPO. People might mistake it for the USIMO. Yeah. On a more serious note, honestly, the F equals MA and the F equals MA in particular, physics Olympiads in the United States are low-hanging fruit. Not many people do physics in the United States as opposed to like maybe some East Asian countries, because the physics curriculum is not, the physics curriculum requires like mathematical maturity to understand. But if you have a lot of experience in math competitions, there is no reason you should like abide by those rules, because if you know the math, then just go do it. Okay, so let me tell you guys about the relationship between math and physics. When you do physics, what you do is you look at objects around you in daily life, and then you think about how they would move. So if I have a ball and I roll it, it will continue rolling. Why? You can write down an equation for it, conservation of momentum. If you take ideas from your everyday life, from your intuition, and then you write them down in the language of mathematics, that is all of physics. And sometimes physics contests end up seeming a lot more like math contests, especially this year. This was my thoughts after the USA PHO this year. I posted it up in the camp server. The first question was mechanics, fine. The second question was 20% electromagnetism and 80% math. There was a geometric series on there. It was extremely contrived, and it definitely helped me because not many people know, maybe they're not as familiar. And in question 3, that was an optics question. Optics questions are essentially ray tracing, and that is a geometry question. It's just pure math. In question 4, it was nominally a thermodynamics question. That was what all the flavor text was about, but it was actually just 100% math because they did not make you do any thermodynamics. Instead, they just made you do data analysis. The 5th question was relativity, except all the questions were given, except all the equations were given to you. So you did not have to know the relativity going in. You just need to plug in the numbers, and then it's just mostly math. And the 6th question, let me show you guys the 6th question. As you can see, they gave you a bunch of differential equations, and then they give you a really strange relation. The energy is related to the momentum. Usually it's p squared over 2m, right? But here it's this v times 1 minus cosine of pb object. And if you try to use any physical intuition to understand this, I think you will just get completely lost. So instead, just push the symbols around and do enough mathematics and you will get the correct answer. So of course, this USA PHO this year was not your typical USA PHO, but it's definitely true that a lot of physics is just about taking the things that you know and writing down in mathematics. And the reason that I thought all of these were so simple is because these were leaned more towards the math side than towards the understanding physics side. And this is the part that I am good at. So I will also talk about the physics landscape in general. In the Western sphere of physics competitions, problems are very long and contain a lot of reading. And they contain a lot of unnecessary things for the problem about the history of phenomena or that kind of things. Whereas in Eastern contests, the European Physics Olympiad in particular, all problems are extremely concise. All 3 problems that you are expected to spend 5 hours on fit in 1 page. And there are a lot of tricks, mathematical tricks, physical tricks, and it requires a lot of ingenuity. And so in these sorts of physics competitions, when you get to this level of physics competitions, I guess, your experience from math competitions, if you have it, the problem solving ability and the ability to spot these kinds of tricks is extremely powerful. And also on Eastern competitions, the mathematics is just totally up for grabs. You are expected to be able to do multivariable calculus like you are doing addition. Versus in Western contests, they give you things like the integral of sine cubed, which is yeah. The landscape and physics competitions, there's a lot of variation in the amount of mathematics that you're expected to know. Now, okay, physics thinking. Here are some thoughts about the way that physics has made me think about math. When you are doing physics, there are a lot of situations where you have to do things that do not seem very rigorous, such as small angle approximations. I think the first time I was introduced to this, I thought it was black magic. This is not how you're supposed to do it. Sine of x is equal to x. What are you talking about? But I think that you need to learn physics to understand calculus on an intuitive level. Physics gives you a lot of real world phenomena that are described by small displacements, small movements. And if the way that physicists do math is a closer approximation of the way that I do math, then maybe your school teacher would teach it to you. Because in physics, the intuition comes first. I see what I think how objects are going to behave in the real world. And then I write down mathematical equations that agree with what I think. And then I push the symbols around in a way that may not seem rigorous, knowing that they are rigorous because they match up with the things that I see in the real world. And the intuition is that you know that everything that you're doing is rigorous, even though it seems like it might not be. And you can always go back and make all of it and dot all the I's, cross all the T's. I certainly learned all of my multivariable calculus as a consequence of learning electromagnetism. Then I learned more math and went back and used that math and applied it to learn more physics. Special relativity in particular, it is very difficult to understand anything that's going on there unless you know how hyperbolic geometry works. And electromagnetism, it's very difficult to do any of that if you do not have a strong understanding of vector calculus. So math and physics, they really do talk to each other. If you have abilities in math, they will help you immensely in physics and just lift you up by your bootstraps. And if you have abilities in physics, you can go back and use them to understand mathematics more intuitively, especially when you get into higher mathematics, right? Because like when you're at levels of differential equations and vector calculus, that kind of thing, if you do not have like a picture to work with, it can be very difficult to understand what you're actually talking about, and you might start just pushing symbols around. So physics gives you the intuition. The real world is your intuition. Cool. Let's turn our attention to the relationship between mathematics and computer science. Just like mathematics is the language of physics, computer science gives you syntax to write down your mathematical ideas. So all of the things that you are going to be thinking about, they're all mathematical in nature. What you need to do is learn how to take those mathematical ideas you have in your head and put them down into Java code or C++ or Python if you're still using it. And if you have that ability, then you will succeed quite easily in these computer science Olympiads, or at least you will have much of the work done for you already. So let me give you an example of this that takes it to an extreme. This was from the 2021 December contest. So this was just 6 or 7 months ago in the Platinum Division, problem 3. So this is a stereotypical question, I suppose. It looks normal enough. It's very difficult because it's a Platinum question. And this is what most people's code look like. This is what a programmer's code look like. This is Danny Mittal. He is probably an extremely good competitive programmer, and this is what his code looked like. If you sat down and wrote this kind of code, it would probably be much longer. This is probably super optimized. But when I read this problem, I saw it as a math problem, right? Like all of the ideas when you're doing computer science, they're all mathematical. And here, the ideas were extremely mathematical. This is just a combinatorics question. And I realized I can just solve this combinatorics question. I gave an exact answer for it. So instead of having to do like long computations through coding, I just did all the computations through math, and I figured out that the exact answer, it's written right there, n factorial times 1/2 blah, blah, blah. And the code below this me of h part, that is the entire length of the code that you need in order to execute this. So if your mathematical, if your ability to understand the mathematical ideas that you are talking about are good enough, then the amount of coding you need to do is greatly reduced. So here are some ideas that are shared between mathematics and computer science. So like these are basically things that if you are doing mathematics and going into competitive programming for the first time, these are boxes that you already have checked off of the things that you need to learn. And if you're a coder going into mathematics, then you already have a lot of these skills too, because they overlap. This is their intersection. So first of all, there's a lot of problems in computer science that are straight up mathematical algorithms. Like the intersection of lines, this is unclear. Intersection means intersection of lines or intersection of triangles, or in the case of the USACO 2021 Open Gold question number 3, the one where I qualified for platinum, that question was about points inside of triangles. And the way you determine whether or not a point lies inside a triangle is you take the signed areas and you figure out whether they match up to each other. And of course, this is a strictly mathematical idea. And all of these ideas, they all just come from mathematics. And if you already know them, then you do not need to relearn them again. Convex hull, that's another idea. It's where you have a collection of points and you want to stretch a rubber band around them. That's a convex hull. Minimax, that is a phenomenon from game theory, where you're playing a game such as chess that's deterministic and has a finite set of moves and things. Okay. Matrix exponentiation, fast exponentiation in general, combinatorics. These are all things from mathematics, right? These are all combinatorial ideas. The first row was all geometric ideas. And now there's a bunch of number theory ideas as well. If you come from mathematics, you almost certainly know what a prime sieve is, sieve of irrational things. And you know how to do the GCD and LCM computations because you've probably done it a lot while in your competitive mathematics studies. You know what the Euclidean algorithm is. Euler's Toshin function, you may not know what that is. That comes from Olympiad mathematics. You already know all of the modulus, how to work with numbers and modular arithmetic and Chinese remainder theorem. So all of these are just mathematical algorithms. These are computer science algorithms that are explicitly just computing some mathematical thing. Okay. Now, time complexities. Time complexities are a critical part of computer science. If you want to, the way you the score function, like the thing you're trying to optimize when you're doing competitive programming is how quickly your code runs. And this is described by something called a time complexity. And sometimes these time complexities can be very difficult. For example, there's a specific implementation of the sieve of irrational things that has a time complexity of O of n times log of n. The way you compute this is by taking the sum of reciprocals of primes. Now, this is clearly mathematics at this point. And if you understand all of the mathematics behind this, then time complexities, like all of the O of n stuff, that will come very naturally to you because it's just math. Graph algorithms. Graphs are those things where you have vertices and edges, a bunch of points and a bunch of lines that connect them. And there are so many of these in computer science. BFS and DFS are the things you learn first. You will learn about DSU. You will learn about all sorts of trees. And if you come from a mathematics background, specifically if you know a lot of combinatorics, all of these algorithms will also come very naturally to you. On the flip side, log of 2 algorithms. What do I mean by this? There are many algorithms in computer science that have a factor of log of n in them. For example, the first sorting algorithms you will ever learn, merge sort, quick sort, those both are O of n log n. And binary search, if you're searching through a sorted list of objects and you want to find a particular one, that has a time complexity of log of n. And this is a specific piece of intuition that you should have, where you leverage a sort of linear structure and you can extract. And if you leverage that structure in the correct way, you will always come out with a log of n term. This idea can be applied to many difficult mathematics problems. Olympiad mathematics problems. The APMO, the Asian Pacific Mathematics Olympiad from this year, question number 4 was a combinatorics problem that had an answer of log 2 of n with a floor function around it or something. The USAMO from this year, question number 4, that was also an algorithm such as this, where you take some sort of linear pattern. You must extract some kind of information from this linear pattern, and that almost always will give you log base 2 of n, because it's a specific piece of intuition that you can learn from computer science. And finally, dynamic programming. If you have ever done one of those terrible Amy problems where they give you a recurrence relation and you just need to bash out like 10 rows of numbers, you have done dynamic programming. And when it comes down to computer science, dynamic programming is one of the most difficult things for competitive programmers to learn. If you have a lot of experience from mathematics doing this sort of dynamic programming by hand, you will understand how to construct those recurrence relations that you need in order to successfully create a dynamic programming solution. So yeah, clearly mathematics and computer science, the knowledge base that you get from these two, the intuition that you get, they intersect significantly. So it's almost as if you learn it once, you've learned it twice, right? This skill will help you in both. Okay. Now, I've talked a lot about like the relationships between these two subjects. What if you are a middle schooler right now and you're just trying to figure out what should I do? What book should I pick up? What exactly did Rowechen do that got him where he is today? There is a post that is very popular on AOPS that says stop looking for the right training. You should not follow anybody in particular because they are probably very different from you. But the first thing that any programmer does when he sits down and he creates a big project is he goes on Stack Overflow and he copies down as much code as he can find, if it's a personal project and you are not worried about plagiarism. So my advice is to take a look at what I have done and take it all with a grain of salt, copy it down, and then modify it as you wish to suit your own learning curve. So I do not know why this animation is here. Okay. So, oh my God. Okay, the animation will be on every page, I suppose. Okay, so in middle school, I participated in Math Counts. This was the book that I used, the 3-year Math Counts Marathon by Karen Go. This book it contained all of the information that you needed to like succeed in these middle school mathematics competitions. I was very bored by it, I think, but I still read it all the way through, and I suppose I would recommend it. The majority of my preparation came from doing lots and lots and lots of tests. Now, the AMC and Amy. For this, I'm sure a lot of you know, but AOPS, Art of Problem Solving Online, is an extremely valuable resource for all manner of competitions, but it specializes in mathematics competitions. And on it, there's a wiki that contains every single AMC and Amy that has ever happened. And so what I did was I went through and I did all of them 2 or 3 times, and I put them all in a big spreadsheet, like the one that is shown here. And I spent way too much time on the spreadsheet, but that is how I succeeded in AMC and Amy competitions. Because you cannot, it's very difficult for somebody to teach you the intuition that you need for these mathematics contests. You need to learn it through doing. Okay. Oh yeah, so to be clear, I did not use any textbook or anything for my AMC and Amy preparation. Now in freshman year, I was introduced to the F equals MA. On the physics website, AAPT, there's also a list of 25 or something physics past F equals MAs. Coming off of my Math Counts and AMC Amy experience, the AMC is a 75-minute 25 question multiple choice examination. So is the F equals MA. So the sort of testing pace that I had developed through AMC was just directly transferable to the F equals MA. So essentially what I did was I did all of the past ethicals MAs, read all of the solutions, made sure I understood all of the solutions, and then applying my mathematical ability from the AMC and AME, I just was able to barely qualify for the USFO that first year. In order to study for the USFO, I picked up this book. It's called HRK, Halliday, Resnick, and Crane, 5th edition. This book is considered by most physics, competitive physics students to be the Bible of like competitive physics. I read through like 2 chapters of it, attempting to study for the USFO. I really disliked this book. And so I did not do very well on the USFO that first year. But your mileage may vary. This book is like trusted by many, many people read this book and have had tremendous success with it. Now the USACO, I bet you know where I'm going with this. The USACO also has their own website that has lots and lots of past contests on it. So that first year, when I found out about USACO for the first time, I went and I did a bunch of these past contests. And this is not very similar to the AMC. All of the USACO contests from the start, even in bronze division, it's an Olympiad format, 3 questions, 4 or 5 hours. The AME is 3 hours though, and I had done a whole lot of those. So that is I took the mentality from AME, multiplied by a factor of 1.33, and that was my USACO preparation. Codeforces is the other major platform that I used. Codeforces is a Russian website that contains like thousands and thousands of problems that you can solve. And this website is extremely active. They hold a contest like almost every week. So I would highly recommend it as well. I spent a lot of my time on that, studying for the USACO. And that first year, this was the extent of my preparation. Okay. Now, for the USIMO and achieving MOP, what I did was I took part in this training program called Otis. Otis is a online class by Evan Chen. And this program definitely has like a skill floor or something. You need to be able to qualify for your country's national Olympiad pretty consistently. But the way that he teaches is that he essentially allows you to do whatever you want. He just gives you a bunch of materials to work with. And this was like, it really changed my life. All of these materials that he gave me and the intuition that was packed inside of them. So yeah, would highly recommend once you get to that level. For USACO Platinum, I did not do anything new. I just continued working through all of the gold and platinum contests on the USACO webpage, and I continued participating in Codeforces. Now, for the USAPHO, in order to, in my junior year, in order to achieve success in this physics contest, I picked up these 2 books called Competitive Physics, but all of the books are called Competitive Physics, so it's more useful to refer to it by Ricardo and Wayne. These books are, these 2 people are from, like, they're affiliated with the Singapore team, and as I've said, the Eastern style of teaching physics is extremely math heavy. As somebody with a lot of mathematics experience, this did not pose any challenge to me whatsoever, and I love these books. I read them front to back, and I solved every single question. And that gave me more than enough knowledge to do well on the USAPHO. This appears to be, this is like a very common thing. If you know enough math, physics becomes very easy for you. So yeah, I would highly recommend if you are like an aspiring math competitor to go pick up physics. Okay. Now, I went quickly. This is essentially all of the things that I have. Mr. Tsai, do you think I should go back and revisit some of the slides more targeted towards beginner competitors, or should I open the floor?
I think this is very good. Let's just open for questions. I'm sure the parents or students will ask questions, and that will take some time for you to go through.
Okay.
There are actually a few questions in the chat room if you can take a look.
Cool. First, this is a class that I'm going to be teaching this summer. It begins tomorrow, actually, and it is about mathematics, physics, and computer science, the three subjects that I enjoy the most. If you want to learn more about, if you want to like do well in these three competitions, well, of course, I would recommend my own course. So there were also some questions that were sent to me before, and I will try to answer them first. Should we focus on one subject or multiple? Most of us are struggling to do well in one subject. I would say if you are currently a junior or a sophomore and you are trying to get something onto your MIT application, first of all, this is never the motivation you should have. But if you really need to do something like this, I highly suggest going and taking the Ethicals MA. Go do that and do very well in it, and just study HRK, study the past sets, and you will achieve success because it's a low-hanging fruit right now. Otherwise, if you're currently a middle schooler, you should definitely learn competitive mathematics, because the problem-solving skills that you will learn from there and the community that you will meet is unparalleled among the other subjects. And once you have the mathematical ability, you can definitely leverage it for all of these other competitions. Now, someone asked, what is your major at MIT? MIT freshmen are undecided by default, like you do not have to choose. So I have a lot of interests, so I will find out when I get there. When did I start preparing? I started preparing middle school. Okay. I do maintain a rather good. Okay, so the question was, other than very strong qualifications in competitions, I assume you also maintain good GPA and take many APs. How do you balance your time? So at school, okay, so I have a somewhat my approach to school is basically it's work as opposed to play. And play is when I get home and I start learning math and physics and computer science, and work is when I am sitting in school, not doing a whole lot. Okay, so, but in any case, like once you, okay, in any of these competitions, mathematics, physics, computer science, biology, chemistry, anything, if you succeed in the competitions, the school curriculum by comparison in the United States becomes trivial to you. So my GPA did not suffer at all. I took many AP classes, yes. How did I balance my time? Essentially, so in addition to these competitions, I have played violin since middle school, and I have swam competitively also since middle school, earlier elementary school. And while I did not achieve similar levels of success, like I am not that good at violin or swimming, it never like, there comes a point, right, when if you are doing mathematics for 3 straight hours on an Amy, you may be tired afterwards. So the good thing is that the muscles and the like stamina that you are exercising when you're swimming or playing violin is not the same as the stuff that you are exercising when you're doing a math competition. So it was never like my low energy levels in one of them would conflict with the other. So I sort of just packed my schedule, and it was not really a problem. Volunteering hours, I ended up teaching a lot, and for all of my college applications, you know, teaching was what I put in there. So that's a recommendation, I guess, if you're looking for something to volunteer for, but you don't want to do something that you're not actually interested in. Teach. Teach is so good. Teaching is so good. It reinforces all the things that you have already learned and forces you to explain it to somebody, which makes you make sure you actually understand it. Cool. So how did I balance my time preparing for these 3 competitions? As you saw, I got a lot of my mathematics preparation in middle school when I simply did not know about physics and computer science Olympiads. And of course, later in my freshman and sophomore year, I spent almost all of my time working on math competitions. In 11th grade, after I made that birthday wish to myself, I split my time 3 ways. working on mathematics, physics, and computer science. So that was a hectic year, but that was also the year that everybody was home for the pandemic. So I suddenly had a lot of free time because I did not have to show up to classes or something. Okay, so yeah, but as I said before, my recommendation is if you have time, please gain a solid foundation in mathematics and then leverage that to succeed in physics and computer science Olympiads. That is definitely optimal. Like if you are sitting here and you are an elementary schooler, then oh my God, you have so much time in your hands, and you should definitely work on the AMC series, achieve success in math counts and AMC, and then you will still have plenty of time left over to learn computer science and physics, and your mathematical abilities will accelerate your learning in those two departments just tenfold. So another question, how did I spend my summers? In my middle school years, I did not know about the existence of like all of these great mathematical programs that are available to the competitors today. And instead, I mainly spent my time at home studying by myself. And I suppose this had pros and cons. On one hand, I did not get to meet the mathematics and physics and computer science communities until high school. But on the other hand, I learned how to study by myself very effectively. But during high school, I ran a math contest called Tree. I did a lot of teaching. Towards the end, I went to some summer camps, such as MOP and physics camp. Yeah, I would highly recommend going to those mathematics programs that I talked about earlier, though, like math camp. If you can make commies, if you can make RSI, well, RSI is research, but all of those amazing experiences. You will meet people that will become friends for life. So how should a 7th grader in particular prepare for these competitions? Yep, learn math first, then learn everything else. Okay, let me look at the questions in the chat now. So where did I where did you buy the HRK book? Now, so I assume it is a parent that sent that message. As a child, I pirated the book, but you can definitely find it online. The used version is quite expensive, a few $100s. Yeah, probably, because that book is not published anymore. The newest version is called HRW, Halliday, Resnick, and Walker. That book is, they took out the hardest 50% of HRK. They put in a lot of color illustrations, and now that book is completely useless. So do not get that book. That book is used in AP Physics classrooms. Okay. But yeah, and there are also many other books other than HRK. It's just that HRK seems extremely popular among today's physics students. Yeah, get the 5th edition if you can. It's probably worth it. What does that spreadsheet track exactly? The spreadsheet for AMC, I actually have it here. This is what it looks like. Oh, I did not want to zoom in. Yeah, so it tracks like I spent way too much time on the spreadsheet, planning and stuff, and so there are a lot of extra information, but mainly it just tracks like the scores that I got throughout the year, and what I got wrong, what I did not I did not answer, and at the bottom of it I wrote review I wrote review for every single problem that I missed, every single problem that I did slowly. Review is definitely much more important than doing the contest itself. When you get to a certain point, the review is much more important than doing the set for real. So yeah, that is what it contains, and it also contains the same thing for AMIs and other things. What I recommend specifically for AMC and AMI is that once you have exhausted all of them, you should try looking back at the questions that you missed the first time, and make sure you can actually solve them now, which is why there was a tab there called compilations, which is where I just took a bunch of questions that I missed, put them together in a new set, and then solved it again. Cool. Do you have to have calculus knowledge for preparing F equals MA? On one hand, no. On the other hand, okay, so nominally no, right? Like there do exist questions that if you do know calculus, you will be able to solve faster. But honestly, on one hand, for a ninth grader who has been doing competitive mathematics for 2 years, right? So if you begin in 7th grade and you only have 2 years of competitive mathematics experience under your belt, calculus will not be difficult for you to learn. And if you are doing physics without knowing calculus, you are doing it with a hand tied behind your back. Like, how do you define velocity, right? Or something. So, so no, you do not need to know calculus. You can take the AP Physics 1 approach. But I highly suggest learning physics correctly the first time with calculus. Yeah. Do I play video games? Sure. How many hours a day or week did you spend on each subject? A lot of my time. I don't have an exact count though. So what I would say is that there is a blog post by Evan Chen on this subject, and I will basically copy it verbatim. If you know you truly enjoy mathematics when you think of it, you think of it as play and not work, because towards the end of it, learning new mathematics materials was like collecting new weapons for a game I was playing or something. Like the reason you want to learn things like spiral similarity or moving points or complex bashing or barycentric coordinates, any of that, like these are just amazing new techniques and things that you can apply to your problems, right? And once you have all of the basics down, then you can just start fleshing out your skill tree, and you become, and it just becomes like very entertaining to you. Or at least it did for me. So for me, I did spend a very large amount of my time on mathematics, physics, and computer science, but hopefully you will be able to do the same and not think that it is like somebody's forcing you to do it. Yeah. Considering the heavy high school workload. So of course, for me, there was 1.5 years where we were all in a pandemic. And during that time, school became very relaxed for me. So that was, so although the coronavirus was horrible, that was like a very good thing for my preparation in terms of preparation. Okay, but yeah, this is probably not applicable to you guys. But to directly quote Evan Chen, if you think about something it was not Evan Chen actually. Anyways, if you think about something when you're like in the shower or when you're riding on a bus or when you're like walking to school or when you're eating, like during those times when you otherwise have nothing important to occupy your mind with, and maybe you would like take your phone out of your pocket and start playing Brawl Stars or something. Instead of doing that, I would probably just be thinking about math because there is something interesting on my mind. There's an interesting problem on my mind. And so even though the amount of time that I spent doing actual problem sets, like maybe that's only like on average like 2 or 3 hours a day or something, I'm more or less thinking about mathematics or something for 24/7, unless I'm being forced to do something else at school. Okay, what book did you use for the USAMO? I used Otis. I did not follow any specific book. Otis by Evan Chen, highly recommend it. How did I manage my time? I hope I'm explaining it well enough. Like, essentially, I just packed my schedule and was very busy. But it was enjoyable. It was more like I was just playing games that I really enjoyed all day, which if you can achieve that mindset, then you are definitely going to achieve success in these competitions. So yeah, that's also why I think you parents, it is like not optimal to force your children to take part in these contests. Like maybe push them at the beginning, but you need to enjoy it a lot. Okay. So what do you do besides these three subjects? Swim and violin. How do you manage to focus? So yeah, this is definitely something that you build up over time. And the way that contests are structured is definitely meant to encourage this or something. Math counts. Math counts is a 40-minute test, 30 questions. Target round is even shorter. And then if you move on to the AMC and F equals MA, those are 75 minutes long. If you move on to the AME, 3 hours long. USACO and the other Olympiads, those are 4 hours long. And then recently I have been sitting in my room doing practice IFOs, and those things are 5 hours long. They are exhausting. But so in terms of focusing during a contest, it's definitely something that you build up over time by practicing a lot. How do I manage to focus like in terms of studying? The subject is like sufficiently interesting to me that like I'm never super distracted or anything. There was also a period of time where so now this is a mindset thing that was on some of the slides that I did not share. It's important to develop a mindset that like the limitations that other people impose on themselves, such as you know, you cannot learn calculus until you're in high school, or I don't know, other things like other people think X topic is hard, so you should not do it until you reach a certain age or until you have done certain other things. Ignore those. Just learn things if you can, because they're all extremely interesting and worth your time. On the other hand, you should also set rules for yourself that will help you be more productive. So there was like long periods of time where I did not play any like games or like you know, those other like things that like are very entertaining but otherwise have no long-term utility or something. So that was difficult. Like I still waste a lot of time watching YouTube every day because it's very fun. But you need to eventually, like these days, it is painful to me, like a little bit, to be wasting my time. And so this is definitely like a mindset thing. You want to become good more than you want to like spend your time getting some temporary entertainment. And okay, specific recommendations for like focusing while you are sitting down with a book in front of you. Sometimes I listen to music. Uh, don't use something with words in it because then you'll listen to the words. I listen to lo-fi music sometimes. That's good. Yeah, whatever works for you. I did not. Okay. So my mom bought me the math books from AOPS. I did not read any of them. The books that I used for math study were all of the past contests. But again, your mileage may vary. The way that I learned the majority of my knowledge was probably not very standard. I did it mainly just by doing lots and lots of problems, which I think is more or less the right way to get a lot of your intuition. But there may be more efficient ways to learn the knowledge, like if you just straight up read it out of a book. So books I used for math study, not much until I got to Otis. How much do you spend? Okay. Big effort on any sports. There was a period of time in my freshman year where I was on the varsity swim team, and at that point, I did spend a lot of effort on swimming. Afterwards, I moved to Texas, and in Texas, the swimming is extremely competitive, and I found out that I was actually not very good at it, and so after that, I've spent less time. But it's still important to be athletic because it on one hand it takes your mind off of those brain intensive things, and it's just important to be healthy, especially to like succeed on these contests. Like paying attention to a physics contest for 5 hours is something that requires physical stamina. Okay. If the student has won USICO bronze, can he call himself a USICO silver qualifier? Sure. This is not the right mindset to have or something. But if you won USICO bronze, you can probably call yourself a USICO silver qualifier. Yeah. Okay. So what if somebody does not like math but wants to be good at it? What I would say is there are many books of mathematical puzzles that are extremely interesting. Like these are like cherry picked the most interesting things that you can like just the most interesting mathematical problems. I was recommended one by Luke that I actually have. This thing, mathematical puzzles. I'll type it in chat. Mathematical Puzzles by Peter Winkler. So things that are like similar to this. These are just books that contain a lot of puzzles, and they will be extremely interesting. You will also learn a lot from doing these puzzles. These are just like cherry picked the most interesting math problems, and some of them aren't even math, but mathematics is essentially just thinking. Like logic is mathematics. So more or less anything you do will help you in mathematics. So if you want to become good at mathematics, but you're not like super interested in the contest materials right now, then maybe pick one of these puzzle books. If I wanted to teach, what would be a good place to start? The first time I taught was a story. Instead, the first time I taught for real was it's always like a nonprofit. You just like find a nearby group of kids that are also teaching. If that does not exist, you can find like you can just tutor someone. Like find a friend that is like not as good as you in math competitions or something, but is interested in learning math. It doesn't even have to be competitions, right? Like you can help somebody out with their AP Physics C homework. And in doing so, you might be able to give them some insight into the intuition behind everything that they're learning. And so you can definitely start small, like just find a friend to teach. Most of my teaching has not been done through classes like this photon thing that I'm doing, or Kid Teach Kid, or the local enrichment center that I sometimes teach for. Most of it has been just talking to people over Discord. Like sometimes people will have a problem that they need help on, and they might DM me or something. And yeah, I'm always happy to help, because like doing a problem that you send me is basically the same as doing a problem that I'm doing myself. And if it's too easy for me, I might as well do it. If it's too hard for me, then of course I'm learning something. So there's no reason for me to not help. So yeah, that is also the approach you should have to teaching. Teaching and learning are two sides of the same coin. Not in the sense that they're opposite. They're literally very close together. Okay. How did you balance math and English? My English is not my English is all right. Like I took the AP English classes and did well. I read a lot of sci-fi books, and especially if you read sci-fi books that have a lot of actual physics in them, then those can be interesting for STEM kids who are otherwise not interested in English. Okay, high school freshman got Amy and USFO honorable mention. Okay, impressive. What is your suggestion balance between math and physics in the following year's study? Whichever one you're more interested in. If you want to succeed on the Amy, I highly recommend doing problems that are slightly above the level of the Amy. Do like HMMTs, or learn some Olympiad theory. If you want to get better at USAPHO, learn more mathematics if you do not have the background necessary to like understand everything very well. And pick up one of those books like HRK is good, or pick up Ricardo and Wang, or pick up I don't have any other recommendations, but there definitely exist others. I just don't know enough. But yeah, whichever one you prefer. And pick up computer science too, if that's interesting to you. Do you ever have to force yourself to study competitive math or physics or CS? Not really. But I know this might not apply to everyone. So it's good to take breaks, I guess. If you ever find yourself like forcing yourself to study these things, I would say that like if you ever force yourself to do anything, it is less efficient than if you truly enjoy it. So it varies by person, but you may want to take a break and work on something else. Like maybe you want to work on the instrument you play or work on the sport you play. As long as you're being productive, as long as you don't like just sit down and watch YouTube for hours. Okay. How many hours do you need to do school homework each day? Yeah, because of my yeah, so my school is like a pretty good public school. They do assign us large amounts of homework. I get most of it done at school. That's my opinion, right? Like if you're going to be sitting at school anyways, just do the homework that they give you while you're at school. That's okay, advice. Okay. After your 16 years, have you been mainly focused on physics? So for the past year, I have actually been working only on mathematics. I've been studying the Otis materials and trying to get into the IMO team. Completely unexpectedly, I got onto the IFO team instead. So I suppose this was just like the problem-solving ability that just carries over between all three of these, and the mathematical maturity, it just helped me. So yeah, but to give an honest answer, for the past year, I've been focused on mathematics almost only. What is your learning motivation besides to go to a top college? I mean, what is your motivation to go to a college, right? It is to learn. So, I mean, yeah, the subjects are intrinsically interesting. They're just interesting to learn. Yeah. Although, yeah, okay. What camps did you go to? Essentially none, except for MOP and physics camp. Cool. What language did I use for the USCO? Oh, okay. This is an interesting tidbit. So like a lot of people, my first experience with programming was with Python. Python is a great language. It's an amazing language. It's just not very fast. And there's more to being a good language than being fast, to be clear. But yeah, for the USACO, Python is definitely not the way to go. I used Java for the majority of my actual competitive programming experience. I tried switching to C++ around halfway through junior year, but I was unsuccessful. Like I just never picked it up fully. So yeah, these days, if you gave me a competitive programming question, I will do it in Java. And yeah, so in between Java and C++, if you do not have any experience, go learn C++. It's just optimal. If you have taken an AP computer science class that has only taught you Java and you're very familiar with Java, you're probably fine. But because the USACO does account for that, to give you twice as long of a time limit if you're using Java versus C++ because it evens it out. But yeah. But the reason Python is good is because of all of the packages and libraries that people have made for you. Like you will never, there are so many things that like, you think you need to do it. You think you need to actually implement it, but somebody's done it for you. So just import it and you're fine. Okay. How many units did you finish in Otis? I did like 40 or 40 something the first year. Evan Chen is a current MIT PhD student, unless he has gotten his PhD. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, he teaches math. I ranked 28th. Okay, do you work more on paper or computer? This is kind of important. So when you are writing, there's like, you learn to talk to a computer by doing competitive programming. And when you know how to, okay. Computers, when you talk to them, you have to be very precise and you have to know exactly what you're saying because a computer will not understand you otherwise. That is the TLDR on computers. And if you know a lot of programming, then you will know how to talk to your computer. everybody in this day and age should know how to talk to their computer because they are the single most important thing in this day and age. So do I work more on paper or computer? If I am doing something like physics, and I will use paper. And of course, if you're sitting in a contest, use paper. So if you're mocking a test, which is meant to emulate the things that you're going to be doing in contest, use paper. However, if you are writing up a proof and you want to keep it, then type it. Of course, paper will get thrown away. And I especially highly recommend that you learn LaTeX, which is a mathematical typesetting tool. If you know how to use it, it will pay back in dividends when you do things, because it's just how you type things that are mathematical and scientific when you're on computer. So definitely learn LaTeX. If you are doing a problem set, then please do it on paper. But if you want to keep something, type it up. Okay. Does useful publish the statistics result? They do. Oh no, they don't. So AAPT is rather opaque about all of their grading. They black box everything, and people don't necessarily know how well they did. There are pros and cons to this approach, of course. So yeah, nobody knows what the cutoff is for physics camp. Nobody even knows what the scoring metric is. So we're not sure if that is well defined. Okay, how do you learn C++ and Java at the beginning? There are like way too many places that you can learn Java or C++. Like if you just Google tutorial, you should be able to find something reasonably good. If you would like to, take a class. But you might not need to if you have enough discipline and if you have learned how to learn from doing so much mathematics. Did you take, I took correspondence. Python is definitely simpler than Java. Who taught you? I essentially taught myself everything except for a lot of my Olympiad mathematics, which was taught to me by Evan Chen. Yeah. Oh, she's interesting. What Discord group are you in or recommend? Every single major Olympiad has their own Discord server. So mathematics, that's MODS. For physics, that's FHODS. For USACO, that's USACO unofficial. If you just Google any of these, you should be able to find them. They offer a community for you to talk to, and that is so important because it teaches you, first of all, to be able to ask questions, right? If you are unsure or unclear about something, your first instinct is to think about it very hard. But if you do not understand, please just ask. Like, everybody is so willing to help. And once you discover that there are many other people like you working towards the same goals, it is a powerful motivating factor. So I recommend all of them. Yeah. Okay, well, some of them, okay, AOPS, the forums on AOPS may not be as mature as the Discord servers. So yeah, I would recommend the Discord servers over AOPS, but AOPS is also great to start. If you already learned everything in advance, well, no, I didn't, right? I did not learn macroeconomics in advance, for example, so that is right. But definitely, like, I finished all of my math and physics classes that my school had to offer like years ago. So yeah, the classes that I was taking at school were material that I did not actually know yet. If you have any problems you can't solve, can you email me about them? Sure, but I cannot guarantee I will answer, but I will try to, maybe. Okay. Have you? No, I have not attended any programs. Our school CS classes worth the time. They're worth the time in the sense that, like, you want that AP credit so that you can put it on your college resume. Other than that, nope, class is not very useful. You should just go practice USACO. So how did you prepare for the USAPHO after practicing F equals MA? So yeah, in order to, so the thing about qualifying for the USAPHO is that if you took a look at the statistics, that's like top 10%. And which means compared to the AMI, you will not have the same experience. Like it's quite difficult to make the AMI in the United States versus the USFL is like roughly 2 times less difficult. So after passing F equals MA, what do? You pick up a book such as HRK because unlike mathematics, there is a lot of theory that you need to know for physics. It's not like the stuff in biology where you need to memorize entire textbooks, but for physics, if you have not seen Maxwell's equations before, you are not going to be able to solve questions that require Maxwell's equations. Yeah. Any books? Yeah, HRK, and if you're good at math and you are willing to work through all the mathematics, Ricardo and Wayne. I chose MIT over the other schools because of its culture. There are, yeah, the culture is just so cool. But of course, it is completely up to you.
I just want to mention we're actually 17 minutes past the hour. So maybe Rowechen, you can kind of go through this quickly, just pick maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and then, yeah, thank you.
Okay. The role model who influenced me the most was definitely Evan Chen. Like, I cannot understate how much he helped me with regard to like my worldview on mathematics and competitions and the raw material he taught me. How and where do I take notes? I take notes on I take notes using LaTeX. I guess I can give you like this is the website Overleaf. This is like where this is like where most people begin doing LaTeX because it's basically the LaTeX equivalent of Google Docs. Yeah, if you want to go write some LaTeX code, go to Overleaf. And so, oh yeah, as you can see, these are my notes. Yeah. Oh, and there's stuff like this for all of my stuff. Yeah, because if they're notes and you want to keep them, then please type it up. And yeah, once you have graduated from Overleaf, you should type up your stuff offline using an actual editor. Some people are strongly opinionated on this, but yeah. Do you have any tips and tricks for taking notes? Make it legible. Handwriting is very important. Handwriting is not important because other people need to read it, although that's important too. Handwriting is important because you need to read it. If you like misread your 640 or something and you lose 10 points off your AMI index for that, you will be very sad and you will learn to have good handwriting. Okay. Tips and tricks, other tips and tricks. Yeah, develop your own style. There is no wrong way to do it. The amount of grades that you are ahead in math is like kind of not an important thing. Like maybe that's impressive to friends or something when you're in high school, but it's not super important because the school math curriculum is not the way you should be gauging how good you are at math anyways.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. Now, I apologize that we're a little bit past the hour, but I think this is a very informative talk, quite interesting as well, because I think I have great exposure to math and probably coding, but less to physics. And there's a lot of interesting points you have brought up. So thank you so much, Rowechen, and good luck to you on the IFO. Hopefully you'll do well. All right, and everybody else, thank you for joining, and we'll have more presentations next weekend on Friday. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.